Hey, grace and peace, everybody. We're back. There was no thumbnail, there was no title. I just popped up and wanted to talk about something. This YSL trial has done a lot to, I dare say, reshape the way we look at politicians. And even more importantly, how we look at district attorneys, investigators, the court system as a whole. It's really given everybody like that eye. Everybody's looking at things a lot more with a lot more scrutiny. I think that's fair to say. So, and I've made no shame about it. I've made no qualms about it. I don't trust Fani Willis as far as I can throw her. I was leaving from work today and I was listening to the news, and they were talking about how Fani Willis, it was an interview that they did with Fani Willis before the most recent election. And she was talking about all her accomplishments. And they talked about her, well, one of the things that she's focusing on now is dealing with the backlog of cases. And I don't know if y'all remember, I did a video a couple months ago about Fani Willis and her backlogs and how she mysteriously, magically solved all the backlog problems with just a snap of her fingers. And I was like, wait, we're in December. This was during the summer. How is she still dealing with the backlog? Or did she ever really solve the backlog then? So it took me down the rabbit hole and I found a lot of clips of this whole infamous backlog. And basically what it is there's a lot of crime in 2019 going on in Atlanta. Well, going into 2020, this little event happened that really put the mess up and really put the kibosh on the judicial system and really slowed it down. So you had all these criminals that were getting arrested, getting charged, or should have been charged. And lo and behold, the pandemic happened and it put a kibosh on the courts. It slowed down everything, gummed up the system. Fani Willis was elected, I think, in that I forgot exactly when, but Fani Willis was elected soon. So she came in and there was a big backlog of cases sitting on her desk. Okay. That's reasonable. That makes sense. Now there were some cases that are some S cases and some great cases that came from even before 2019. We'll talk about those as well. But the big issue is that I'm starting to really think, because we also know something about Fani Willis from the RICO trial, is that Fani Willis hasn't seen cash that she does not like. She's going to do something strange with for some change, right? So money and just having a lot of it, abundance of cash, is never really a good look, it seems like, with the Fulton County DA, because they're going to misspend it, they're going to misuse it, they're going to do something else with it. I didn't bring it all in, but she got in excess of like 8, maybe even $10 million to deal with this backlog. And I'll leave the clips in the description so you can go back and watch all the news clips, because I just kind of cut out the media parts. And then we're going to look at the long video that I started this video discussing at the end. But I just noticed that it's almost as if she was using the backlog, which was a real thing. There was a real backlog, as a smokescreen to just get an abundance of cash. Because you'll hear what they're buying with the cash, and you'll be like, wait, I thought y'all were using the confiscated funds for that. Or I thought you were using the gang intervention funds for that. There's a she was buying the same items from 4 and 5 different pots, it seems like. It sounds like. So let me bring the video in and you tell me what you're thinking. Does it make sense, or am I just being petty? Which is not the worst thing I've been called. I'm just telling you. But let's go. Hopefully I got this right. Did I got this right? I got it right. Here we go.
Fulton County DA Fani Willis says some of the biggest accomplishments of her first term happened outside of the courtroom. Her team cleared a decade's worth of backlogged cases, 18,000 of them, some dating back to 2014.
What did he say?
Her team cleared a decade's worth of backlogged cases, 18,000 of them, some dating back to 2014.
When we got here, there were more than 18,000 cases unindicted. Those cases went back from 2014 through 2020. We were able to clear up all of those cases, bringing resolutions either in indicting them or dismissing them, but certainly moving on with them.
We begin tonight with Fulton County's top prosecutor saying her office is battling a public safety crisis after a perfect storm of events. Last night, during a passionate plea, she asked county commissioners for millions in funding to hire more staff. Today, she told our Joe Hinkey if she can't expand her office soon, hundreds of defendants charged with violent crimes could be released from jail. Joe?
Well, Jennifer, that perfect storm. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis tells me years of mismanagement before she took office, then the COVID-19 pandemic closing courts, and now a spike in violent crime created a backlog thousands of cases long, and she simply needs more help to properly investigate and prosecute each case.
Coming from each and every one of your districts, suspects that may get out of jail on September the 13th. Write it down.
In a fiery presentation Wednesday night, District Attorney Fani Willis told the Fulton Board of Commissioners September 13th is the deadline for when she must have 1,400 plus defendants indicted, or they can receive bonds and walk out of the Fulton County Jail. The inmates are charged with a wide variety of crimes, including murders, assaults, and sexual offenses.
I'm not asking for one thing for Fani T. Willis. I am asking for the resources to do this job properly so that we can keep all of us safe.
Since taking office in January, Willis has said she needs more attorneys and investigators, but says for various reasons she has not received funding to make the necessary hires.
We're not just sitting back and waiting. I've pulled my most senior lawyers, 25 of them, and I have them doing double duty right now. They're doing their current backlog, and then we are specifically focused on the murders and the sexual assaults to try to get this work done, but I can't run them like that forever.
A new initiative.
Okay, I got to stop for a second. Now, if you go back to the infamous Georgia Senate hearing with CalCert, where they wanted to talk to Fani Willis, matter of fact, yesterday, they talked about the fact that she had been subpoenaed and she just didn't come. She just chose not to participate. However, in that hearing, they asked about where did the hiring of all these attorneys that she needed, when did it happen? Where are they? What were their job titles? Where are they now? And nobody knows. I'm just asking questions like, what's up? Like, it is the biggest game of, was that 3-card Monty I've ever seen. Like, it's just a shell game where you're hiring attorneys, but you need attorneys. You're buying laptops, but you got laptops. And all of this stuff, like, there's no accountability. But let's finish up.
Will combat a backlog of sexual assault kits. Fox 5's Eric Mock is live with those details for us tonight. Eric?
Yeah, you know, Fani Willis told us that this partnership that they're doing with the Atlanta Police Department is groundbreaking in getting these kits processed quicker. And the funding they're getting from the federal government, she says, is essential to getting this done. That funding is going to give them $2.5 million, and that's going to help them test more than 4,300 sexual assault or rape that are sitting at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Now, out of those 4,300, 3,500 are cases just in the Atlanta Police Department's jurisdiction. Willis says the GBI has a limited amount of scientists who can do this work, so this money is in large part going to hire private labs to take on the backlog and start testing these kits. And
In 2014.
Oh,
When we got here, there
I hit the button. Yeah. Let me do that again. Hold on. I was gonna say something. That's what I get, man. That's exactly what I was getting. I'm almost done with this thing too. I'll leave right there. Okay. Notice she's getting money from the Fulton County Commission. Notice she's getting money from the federal government. Notice she get money left and right and center to solve the exact same problems. Now, I'm not saying that all these S kits, I'm not even arguing about whether or not the backlogs are valid. I do think there probably was a big backlog. I'm not going to argue about that. And there are men and women in jail that need to be let go. They need to be charged and they be indicted, need to have their hearing day in court. There are tons of victims of assault that need to get their justice as well. Not arguing about the veracity of that. All I'm saying is it just seems like she's getting a lot of money to do the same thing over again. And allegedly she resolved the issue. But in a moment, you can find out she didn't. Okay, let's keep going. And don't hit the button again, Jason.
To take on the backlog and start testing these kids.
The clock is ticking again to indict defendants accused of violent crimes or release them on bond. That clock was put on pause early in the pandemic after the courts shut down, and it led to a backlog in cases. Now Fulton County courts are open and the DA is racing to make up for lost time, but she's getting some much needed help in the form of funding.
And calls for accountability reaching the Fulton County DA's office as well. Incoming District Attorney Fani Willis says she inherited 100 public corruption cases when she took office. A third are alleged police misconduct, but she's promising 10% will be cleared by June. She spoke exclusively with 11 Alive about how that works.
Some of those 10 cases will go to the grand jury. Some of those we will clear the officers after we look at the evidence, but we'll believe that we're working in the right direction.
Now, as I said, I'm not arguing that she shouldn't be trying these cases, that she should not be trying to bring justice. That's not what I'm arguing. What I'm arguing and really questioning is whether or not she's double dipping, whether or not she's triple dipping. Because it seems like a lot of these cases, these backlogs, these assault cases, the misconduct cases, it seems like there are a lot of the same cases that are being counted at that 18,000. That's a lot of cases. 18,000? That was a lot. That was a whole lot. Now we're gonna look at the video, that the most recent one, the interview that she did with 11 Alive News, as going into the most recent election cycle. Yeah, most recent election. And I just want to give you a chance to check it out, see what you think about it, and we'll get out of here. Here it comes.
Fulton County DA Fani Willis says some of the biggest accomplishments of her first term happened outside of the courtroom. Her team cleared a decade's worth of backlogged cases, 18,000 of them, some dating back to 2014. She started a pre-indictment diversion program that already has seen 300 people graduate with no jail time, and the DA's mentorship program is now working with 500 kids in 20 local schools.
I'm really proud of our first term in office, and I say we because it's definitely been a team effort. The first thing that I did is amazing is I put together a team of dedicated professionals, I think the best in the business, and we can compete anywhere in the country. And that was the first step to making progress.
What did that team do? You put together a team to do what, particularly? If you're a restaurant, you put together a team. People thinking that you put together a team of cooks or chefs. If you're run a auto parts, you know what I'm saying? Like you run a garage, if you run a gym, I think you like, I mean, what is the team actually doing? What are they doing? They compete with anybody in the nation. And what? Aren't they supposed to be bringing justice? Like, what's going on? Let me finish this up.
The second thing that we did that is just really helpful to the community and to the citizens is when we got here, there were more than 18,000 cases unindicted. Those cases went back from 2014 through 2020. We were able to clear up all of those cases, bringing resolutions either in indicting them or dismissing them, but certainly moving on with them. The thing that I am happiest about is our REACH program, where in our inaugural.
Okay, so she said those cases have been resolved, 18,000 in 4 years. So let's just say 20 for easy math. That means it's 5,000 cases that they solved each year. Okay. Plus the work that they were doing. And okay, all right. Just trying to make sure I understand exactly how it's going. It seems kind of weird, but let's continue.
Year we went into 6 schools and we touched 150 children. Well, we're now up to 20 schools and we have over 500 children that we're servicing, and it's an entire year program to keep people out of gangs and keep children, middle schoolers and high schools out of gangs, and just showing them anger management and resolutions that don't get you in the criminal justice system. I'm not really believing. I'm not fully convinced that's a reality. I would love to see, like, what schools are you referring to? Like, I'm sorry,
Because again, Fani Willis has proven that she's not necessarily the most trustworthy politician on the planet. So I would probably need to say, okay, what schools are they? What's the principal? Let me see the media release forms from the parents, so on and so forth. Like where are these schools? I got to see them.
And then probably the last big accomplishment is the diversion program. There was no pre-indictment diversion. We've now graduated more than 300 people. We've had 700 people enroll. And then let's talk about crime reduction. All of these strategies and our tough on crime, violent crime especially, have made crime go down. Violent crime is down more than 20%. So I'm extremely proud of the first 4 years. But when I came here, I was on a 12-year plan. And so I continue to be on that 12-year plan, and we have really big plans for term 2.
Well, let's talk about it. What does the middle 4 years of this plan look like for you?
Well, the middle plan looks like some dreams come true. One of the things that I want to do is we want to have a family violence center. And what that is that's for domestic violence victims. It's one-stop shopping. When a woman is fleeing with her children in a domestic violence situation, she doesn't have the time or the resources to go here for one piece of aid and here for another. She's often displaced. She only has the clothes on her and her children's back, and she needs someplace safe to go, someplace where she can get medical care, somewhere she can go get basic identification, because often they leave without it, and it becomes very burdensome for them to have to go a lot of places. So we want a one-stop shop for our domestic violence victims so they can get all the services that they need. I also want a domestic violence court because I need judges that are trained on how to deal with domestic violence victims. We know the reality is most DV victims go back 7 times because it's not a one-dimensional thing. He's not always mean. He's not always violent. Sometimes he's nice. Sometimes he takes care of them. And it's your family. And so it's very hard to go to find safety that you deserve. And so we want to make sure that we get a domestic violence court. The other thing that we're well on our way to is we are starting a human trafficking task force. And that's going to be not only the district attorney's office, but a lot of our law enforcement partners so that we can really take heads on this human trafficking issue. And then the other thing is we're going to continue our fight against gangs. Folks going to continue to get RICO charges if that's what is necessary to tell the entire story. But we're going to continue to be aggressive in our prosecution of gangs so that we can keep crime at a minimum here in Fulton County.
Yeah, well, let me kind of go right off of that. And one of the hallmark cases of your first term was the YSL RICO case. A lot of big developments in that since the last time we talked. Obviously, the kind of the key mark, I guess, defendant, Young Thug, took a plea deal. You know, you've been working so hard on this case. It took a long time to put together, and it's taken a long time to get to this point. Were you happy with the outcome? Do you think that Judge Whitaker made the right decision?
You know, it's funny. I think the public still needs an educational point on YSL. YSL was a RICO indictment with 28 defendants. At this point, 14 of those defendants have been disposed. 1 was dismissed, and 13 have taken pleas, which means they've taken responsibility for their crimes. But we still have 14 defendants that have to finish their justice, and so it limits what I can say about it. But what I can tell you is the approach of that indictment, the approach will stay the same as we enter into the second term.
Yeah. But a few criminal cases dominate.
Sorry about that. Now that we know a lot of those plea deals were hamstrung, your wrist was pulled behind your back, they're dangling your sick and ill, dying relative in front of you, stuff like that, that 14 number doesn't mean much anymore. And being the fact that we know how little we watched it, and I don't think she's going to get away with this. And the reason I want to bring that up is just because we've all seen it in 4K. So I was like, I don't think we believe what you're saying anymore. We might have believed you before. We might have believed you to start, but my goodness, in the morning, there's no way we believe you now. We know that this is probably some shenanigans. And so, yeah, let's go.
Dominated the headlines in her first 4 years, none more so than her prosecution of Donald Trump and some of his allies for election crimes in Georgia. The future of Trump's case becomes murkier after Trump's re-election. A Supreme Court ruling earlier this year made it tougher to prosecute presidents for things they do on the job. Willis indicated she still plans to pursue charges against Trump. The other big Hallmark case, obviously, is still also ongoing. So tell me what you can about it. But with the reelection of now President-elect Donald Trump, he was also at the center of the election indictment. What do you do now? Because we've got this Supreme Court precedent now that says sitting presidents really can't be charged for some of the things that they did in office. With him now having the protection of the White House, how do you proceed as it relates to just his portion of this case?
I'm not going to talk to you about a case. Let me talk to you about a young lawyer and a lawyer that's got a little age on her.
This is a Fani Willis, let's call it a Willis-ism. This is a Willis-ism. Instead of answering the question, instead of just being upright and forward, she's going to confuse the story, confuse the narrative with a story that may or may not, that really doesn't tie in, but you're trying to shoehorn it in because you respectfully think that she's not crazy. But watch how this story, and just tell me, does it make sense?
When I became a lawyer, I believe that all the smartest people were the judges, right? That's who rose to the top. I've been a little disheartened as I've gone on to practice law. But what I can tell you about me as a district attorney, I didn't indict anyone who I did not believe committed a crime in any case. And all of our more serious felony cases were indicted because a grand jury decided that there was enough evidence there to indict them. And so it is our plan, if someone has an indictment in this office, no matter who they are, we continue to pursue those charges. I can't be responsible for what judges and what courts will do. That will be decisions that they make, but I hope we get to see a little courage in leaders, and that that young lawyer from 30 years ago will continue to believe in the judicial system, because we'll see courageous decisions.
Yeah.
What did that have to do with anything? The man said, "Are you going to pursue Trump?" And she tells a story about something shiny that makes no sense. That did not align with what we were talking about. She's talking about judges. She throwing people under the bus. What's that got to do with anything? Okay, let's finish up, Jason.
And you mentioned no matter who it is. What about no matter how long it takes? Is that something that you think about too?
I'm patient. That's what age teaches you, is patience. I've been patient in the way we do our work. And that goes back to those indictments we talked about when we first started. It was very frustrating, right? You want to get through this backlog, you want to do everything, but you cannot do the work at the risk of not looking at the facts, not looking at the evidence. And so we've patiently plowed through, and we will continue to patiently plow through to seek justice. And, I'm here for 8 more years is my plan. And so if that's what it takes for us to get justice in some cases, we come to work every day. We'll come to work and look for justice.
Yeah. Some of the things that you mentioned, the diversion programs, the clearing out of these backlogged cases, you collected a very healthy amount of the vote tally when you were reelected. Did you view that as kind of a referendum from the taxpayers of Fulton County on the job that you did in your first term, and on what they hope for you to do in the second term?
Well, let's be honest. In the primary election, I won 87% of the vote. That's 90, and of course that was only Democrats voting. But of course that was a referendum. And then we live in a very diverse community, one that is 35% Republican, it's about 65% Democrat, and I won close to 69% of the vote. I think the community sees us. I think they see all of our community activities. I think they see our no-nonsense, tough approach on violent criminals. And I think it is a referendum that they want me to continue to do the work. And that's exactly what me and the team that I've comprised hope to do, and what we will continue to do.
I'm sorry. That was a big, giant, empty sandwich of nothingness. But I just wanted y'all to see that. I thought it would be something good, just so you can kind of hear, because this is right after the election, but before, right after Young Thug, I think, pled out. So this is early, couple weeks ago, if you will. So of course the shellacking hasn't happened as of yet, and she's still trying to hold on to hope. But I just wanted y'all to see that. I thought it was interesting because, one, I do think that Fani Willis is playing a shell game with money. and I just like they're moving it into different pots, different pools, pulling from different places, going into different places. I do think that's true, but I also think that she's delusional about what she's actually accomplished. Because that diversion, I'm sorry, the domestic violence shelter thing, I would really like to see how that's going to come together. And a domestic violence court, that sounds really interesting, but you don't control it. Like it sounds very fanciful, very unicorn like. Ma'am, that's not. It just seems interesting. I would love to see what ends up happening as that pans out, and then how ultimately what's going to be her accountability, because there is a lot of unaccountableness going on in the Fulton County DA's office, and we're going to see more of it as we look at the other YSL defendants, as we look at other things that are coming up in this case. We're going to see like there's a lot of unaccountableness. And even yesterday, the video yesterday points out how she got slapped down with a Judicial Watch. She's got to end up giving them all the Freedom of Information Act, and she might end up having to pay their legal fees. And then we got the Ashley Merchant case, or I'm sorry, the subpoena from the Georgia Senate that she just ignored. There's a lot of unaccountableness with Fani Willis, and I think we're going to have front row seats. We'll be able to eating the popcorn, watching, cheering it on, wiping our noses and saying, we got you. So let's see what happens. I want to know what y'all think down in the comments. Please let me know what y'all think about it. Check out the videos. I'll make sure I update this description to have all the videos that I just showed. I'll make sure I have those linked in there so you can check them out yourself and all that kind of good stuff. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace. Thank you so much for your support.
Yo, hit that like for a deal with Christian. Yo, for a deal with Christian, smash that bell for DLC. Yo, smash it, just smash it. Hit that like for a deal with Christian. For a deal with Christian, smash that bell for DLC. Yo, smash it, just smash it. Hit that like for a deal with Christian.